Hey everyone, welcome back to the Yossi Schmidt Show. Today we have a very special guest, Jeff Dornik. Jeff, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. My name is Jeff Dornik. Most people know me from my show, The Jeff Dornik Show. I interview a bunch of people. I've had everybody from, COVID doctors, from like Dr. McCullough, Judy Mikovits, that whole side of things, to politics and candidates and all that kind of stuff. So that's like a daily show. I do a weekly show with Karen Kingston, called In the Foxhole, and that one we dive specifically into the COVID jabs, and we dive into the patents and the data and the studies and all that kind of stuff. So that's a weekly show that we do on Thursdays. And then I'm the co-founder of Freedom First Network, which is the podcast network, all politics, all the time. And then now, I'm in the process of launching a social media platform called Pickaxe, and so I'm the founder and CEO of that. And that's going to be a totally, free speech platform, not beholden in any way to big tech. And so we're jumping through all the hoops to make sure that that happens, and that it's actually a platform that is conducive to not only just free speech, but people being able to have their voice amplified, get the message out there, have discussions, have debates, things along those lines. So it's gonna be a really cool special platform, and that's been like my total 100% focus for the last several months.
I'm very happy to hear that, pleased to hear that. Um, so what is going to make Pickaxe enticing for people to join?
Sure. I'm looking at it from kind of a three-pronged approach. Number one, like I mentioned before, it's going to be it's going to be completely free speech. So or what I define it as constitutionally free speech, right? So if it's constitutionally protected speech, you're allowed to say it. Obviously, you're not going to be allowed to dox people. You're not going to be allowed to directly incite violence. You're not going to be able to threaten violence. Like there's certain things that you're legally not allowed to do, and those things we will censor because that's a violation of the law. But if you are putting forth your opinion on something, if you are saying something, even if I totally disagree with it or I think it's totally immoral, I'm still going to allow it on the platform because you have the constitutional right to declare it. And so there's that side of things that will be enticing to a certain sect of the population. Then there's also going to be the algorithmic side. So we're gonna have we're building our algorithms to be able to help boost content and help your voice to be heard, and your audience, the people that choose to follow you, they should be able to see your content because hey, they said that they follow you, thus they want to actually see what you're saying. Whereas Twitter and Facebook and all these different platforms, they kind of they play favorites depending on what you're talking about and things like that. And for me, I'm just no, if they follow you, they want to see you. We're developing different ways to help people to be able to grow their accounts and build their accounts and things along those lines. So that's another good aspect because I know a lot of people, even people outside of politics, people in other industries that I'm talking to, especially on Instagram, they're people that have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, and they're getting like 0.5% of their audience seeing any of their posts, and they feel they're getting gypped. And what was the point of building up their half a million followers if their 500,000 followers are not allowed to see their content? And so the algorithms are going to be another aspect that will be enticing to people. And then the third aspect will be the monetization opportunities. So we're going to be developing monetization opportunities within the platform itself. If you look at a place like Twitter, Elon claims they're a free speech platform, but you have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And so what they do is they kind of play favorites, and they don't like what you're saying, they can kind of demote you in the algorithms. But also people like myself, people like my friend Matt Couch and others, we're not allowed to have the subscribe button, so we're not allowed to have paid subscribers on Twitter because they deem us as too political. So that means that what they're doing is they're saying you're not allowed to monetize your Twitter account on our platform. But Elon has also explained in the algorithms that they demote outbound links. So if I'm not allowed to monetize on Twitter, what they're also saying is we're going to limit or make it very difficult for you to monetize off of Twitter as well. And so it's kind of like, okay, so now you're really screwing me, right? So that's going to be the third aspect that's going to be enticing, is the monetization opportunities within the platform that a lot of content creators will be dying to participate in, because it's getting harder and harder for influencers of any industry, whether it's food industry, whether it's politics, whether it's whatever it is, to monetize their content anymore unless they're this huge massive account that's established and recognized by everybody. And so those three things I think will be very enticing to people.
Wow, wow. First of all, I didn't know that people got. I know we're talking about pickaxe. I'm going to get back to pickaxe, but I did not know that people are getting turned down for a subscription for being too little. I never heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, like so there's Matt Couch posted on Twitter a screenshot of because he had applied to both be a subscriber and also to advertise on the platform. He's got a t-shirt line, a merchandise line, right? And it's called Faith and Freedoms. And he'll post like Christian themes and conservative themes on t-shirts, and people will buy it. And it's a really popular brand. And they labeled him and his shirt brand as being too political. And he's like, it's a shirt brand that pokes fun at everybody. like when you think about it, it's a shirt brand. It would be one thing if he was tied to the Donald Trump campaign. He's not working for them. It would be one thing if he was working for Ron DeSantis. That's not happening. He's literally a guy trying to pay the bills with his own merch line, and they won't let him advertise. And because he owns the merch line, they won't let him have the subscription button because they deem him as too political.
Such baloney. I'm keeping getting more and more critical of Elon as the days go on. I was critical to begin with, critical. Then he reinstated some accounts. I got two accounts banned. He reinstated those two accounts. Whatever. Okay. Anyways, pickaxe. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Hey, just I'm game with talking about anything. So if the conversation leads to like Twitter or whatever, there's no problem with going down that rabbit hole.
I know. I want to focus on pickaxe because I really my audience, you guys know that social media, freedom of speech is what is there's a reason why it's the First Amendment. There's a reason why it's freedom of religion, freedom of speech. It's the foundation of America. You take that away, sorry, America is going down. You can't criticize the leader. Where does that sound like? It sounds like Russia. I mean, Navalny is in jail now. I'm not saying I agree with everything Navalny's doing, but he's in jail because he criticized Putin.
Yep. Well, and also it also sounds like pre-Revolutionary War America. I mean, you weren't allowed to criticize the king, and that was why we had the First Amendment, and the freedom of speech. And also this is an important distinction that I think a lot of people forget is that we also have the freedom of the press, and that's involved in the First Amendment. And a lot of people think that the freedom of the press means that CBS and ABC and CNN can say whatever the heck they want, and they can get away with it. It's like, no, that's not what the founding fathers actually intended. The founding fathers did not intend for the freedom of press to be limited to a centralized group of people that are credentialed journalists. That's not what they intended. What they were actually intending was that you, as an everyday American, if you had an opinion about the government, at the time it was the king, now it would be the president, whatever it might be, that you could go down to the local printing press and you could write out on a sheet of paper your grievances, and then you could print it on the press and then distribute those pamphlets around town in the public square to friends, whatever it is, and the government could not interfere. So the freedom of the press had nothing to do with the New York Times and everything to do with you as an individual American being able to literally write something down, a critique of the government or a critique of anybody, and then distribute it without restriction of the government. Now, today, that would be the written word. So you have the freedom of speech. You can verbally say whatever you want. You also have the freedom of the press, where you can write whatever you want. If it's your opinion, you can distribute. Now, guess what? That means that, hey, you're allowed to legally go on Substack and critique the government and critique, Anthony Fauci for COVID, and critique, how they handle the elections or whatever it is that's controversial. If you're a flat earther, you have the legal constitutional right to write a blog and distribute it. And the same thing, Twitter is technically a microblog. It's the exact same thing. You have the freedom of the press without restriction of the government. And we know through the Twitter files that the government was colluding with these platforms in order to restrict not just verbal speech, but written speech, which is a direct violation of the freedom of the press. That is the major problem, that when you understand the historical context, that freedom of the press is so much more important.
Very true. Very, very, very true. I couldn't have said it better myself. People need to realize why the First Amendment is so important. And people don't. They just move on. We need to protect you. Come and take our guns. Come and take our guns. Yes, come and take our guns. But the Second Amendment is very, very important as well. But there's a reason why it's number two and not number one. That's all
Yep.
I'm gonna say. So I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, guys, but um, so Pickaxe
Yes.
is launching very soon.
So we're gonna be launching beta. Come the target date is Q1 of 2024. So right in the heart of election season. So it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be crazy. But right now we're in the development phase. One of the things that we're doing right now is people can actually go to pickaxe.com right now and they can sign up and join the waiting list. And then anybody who signs up right now will be a part of the phase one of the rollout of beta. And then because of the way that we're developing things when it comes to the monetization and when it comes to the algorithms and building your profiles and all that kind of stuff, the fact that you'd be able to be in from day one means that you're able to start getting your content on there. You're gonna be able to start building your following among other phase one guys as well, and really get a head start once we officially launch. So I'm telling everybody right now, the best thing you guys can do is get on there and sign up and join the waiting list ASAP.
Do you have an idea when the beta is going to launch, or
Tentatively target date is gonna be January of 2024. But right now we're just in general saying Q1. But I'm assuming that once my tech guys give me the green light, then I'll have an official date as we get closer.
so? Guys, I'm going to link Pickaxe obviously in the show notes. I'm gonna definitely link Jeff's social accounts in the show notes too. Stay tuned. You're going to see amazing things come from Jeff. I've been following Jeff for quite a while now. I'm privileged to call him a friend. And guys, besides for Pickaxe and his upcoming book, which we're going to talk about in just a couple of seconds over here, you're going to see great content. And Jeff doesn't hold back. Jeff calls out Republicans and Democrats alike because, like I always say, hold everyone accountable applies to both Republicans and Democrats, the Uniparty, McCarthy, and everyone. So, Jeff, about your book, why don't you give the audience a little taste about what the book's about?
Yeah, for sure. So I've written two books before this, or co-authored. So I technically published. I was the general editor and publisher for two previous books. One was called Church and State: How the Left Used the Church to Conquer America. The other one was called Social Injustice: Exposing the False Gospel of the Social Justice Movement. And both of those were really dealing with things from a religious standpoint, especially dealing with the woke left, and it was really seeing a lot of things happening within the evangelical Christian world. And so I brought together a bunch of authors for that. People like Pastor Greg Locke, people like Denise McAllister, Dr. Michael Brown, so some phenomenal contributing authors over there. This is going to be my first solo book that I put together. It's called Following the Leader, and this one is for me, I kept getting the question from people: why is it that my friends and family, they're seeing the same information that I'm seeing? They're seeing people collapse and die on football fields and basketball courts and things along those lines in an unprecedented rate. And yet they're still saying that the COVID jabs are safe and effective. They're seeing all the adverse reactions. They're seeing that they're still able to contract COVID despite the fact that they are injected with this injection that they were told would keep them from contracting it. And yet they're still saying, no, it's safe and effective, despite the fact that they know that, hey, they've got just as good of a chance, if not more of a chance, of contracting COVID now that they're jabbed. They're seeing everything happen in front of them, and it's like they're self-deceiving themselves. And I keep getting the question: why are my friends and family, who are smart, intelligent people, why can they not see what I see? And so what I started doing is I started going back and I started looking at psyops. I started looking at propaganda. I started looking at the intelligence agencies and how they would manipulate the public. And then I realized, as I was looking at a lot of their tactics, a lot of the same tactics that they've been implementing over the last several years are the same brainwashing tactics that the cults use. People like Scientology, people like Jim Jones with Jonestown, people all those kinds of cults. I saw the exact same tactics being implemented on a massive wide scale since 2019. And I'm like, what's going on there? So then I started doing some research and realizing there's direct ties between the cults and our intelligence agencies. And I've posed the theory that what they've been doing for the last 50 years is actually testing out their propaganda and brainwashing techniques within these cults. And there's a few different aspects of what they've done. Number one, what they need is they need a cult leader, right? They need somebody to follow, right? When it came to COVID, you've got Anthony Fauci. When it comes to politics, I'm sorry, and I'm saying this as a Donald Trump supporter, but you've got somebody like a Donald Trump who has a mass cult following of diehard followers that will jump off a cliff if he says to jump off of a cliff. Like you need a cult follower, just number one. And so we see that with Jonestown, we see that with Scientology. You've got L. Ron Hubbard, you've got Miscavige that's leading that. You see that with all the cults, right? Then what they do is they systematically build lie upon lie upon lie. And we see this. So like if you were to join, and I always rag on Scientology, but it's so easy because it's so obvious, right? So if you look at the quote unquote Church of Scientology, they believe that Scientologists are indwelt by aliens. You can't make this up. So when somebody dies, the alien shoots up into the sky, drops back down into the Pacific Ocean, crawls up on the beach, and go and indwells somebody, right? And then when you die, it shoots back up into the sky. And now the average person that's going to ask questions about Scientology, they're being enticed because of personal development, because they have this. That's what they're being enticed by when they walk by the Church of Scientology on the street and they try to pull you in to do some of their auditing. They're being enticed. We're going to help you become a better person and all that kind of stuff. They don't start off with saying, yeah, you know what? If you'd like an alien to come inside of you, and then when you die, it shoots up into the sky and drops into the Pacific Ocean and climbs up. And oh yeah, that's why there's so many Scientologists in Los Angeles, is because that's right where they all drop into the Pacific Ocean. Like, people would be like, "You're crazy. What are you talking about?" But a lot of people believe that. But how did they get there? They started off with personal development, and then they would add one little lie that you have to accept as truth. And then once you accept that as truth, then they add another lie and another lie and another lie until you believe that you're indwelt by an alien being. Like that's how they get there. And so we saw that with COVID as well. It started off with, hey, it's just a virus. That's it. It's just a virus. It's okay. And then all of a sudden, then they started adding a lie. They started lying about the numbers. They started lying about the hospital rates. They started lying about the death rates. And then they started lying about the vaccine. And then it was a progressive lie. Once you accepted one lie, they would add the next one and the next one. It's the exact same thing. And then the third thing that they're doing, that they tested out in the cults, is cancel culture. Did you know that in Scientology, if you even question their leadership or you rebel in any way, they label you as a suppressive person. A suppressive person then is not allowed to conduct business with any other Scientologists. You are shunned. You're not allowed to go there at all. You're completely, you've lost your voice, and all of your friends will cut you off, and all of your family members will cut you off. I can't tell you how many people, that I even know that have lost family members over even questioning what's going on in the Church of Scientology because they've been labeled as a suppressive person. How is that any different with the cancel culture that we're experiencing today? It's the exact same thing. And we think, oh, all this stuff, this is new. No, they've been testing this out for the last 50 years within the cults. It's just now they're doing it on a massive scale. And so the book will lay out how they systematically have been testing this out, and then the rollout over the last several years. And then I think that this will then answer that question that everybody's having. Why are my friends and family blind to what's actually going on? Well, here's why. Once you understand it, now you can begin to overcome it, because you understand why they're brainwashed and why they can't see what's happening right in front of them.
Like the saying says, like the saying is, first understand the problem and then solve then solve it.
Exactly.
You can't solve a problem without knowing what the problem is.
Yep. Yeah.
People
Well,
are
and yeah, and I think when it comes to that, it's like, obviously a lot of people understand, okay, there's the problem of cancel culture, but you don't understand that it's actually being implemented by our own government, the intelligence agencies, and they're actually weaponizing it on a massive scale. Once we understand that, then we actually know what we're going up against. But I think a lot of times we take for granted, we're going up against our own government in all of these aspects. And so we've got to understand who is actually behind this, who is the author, who is the source of all this. And it's coming from the deep state of our intelligence agencies.
wow. Can't wait to read the actual book.
Yeah.
Wow. So the book is not done being written, or it is done being written?
It's currently being written right now, and so we're doing pre-orders right now. You guys can order it at jeffdornik.com, and then anybody who pre-orders it will get a signed copy. And so you guys can pre-order that at jeffdornik.com, and there should be a button right there on the homepage, and you guys can pre-order it.
Guys, go get it. Wow, can't wait to read it. Obviously, it's gonna be an amazing book.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's been eye opening for me because like literally, I didn't set out to expose the intelligence agencies and the deep state and all that kind of stuff. Literally, I picked the title of following the leader because initially I was getting concerned about the conservative movement idolizing Donald Trump to the point to where he could say whatever he wants and you have to say that everything that he's doing is right. And I'm saying that as a Donald Trump supporter. I'm totally endorsing him and going to vote for him, but I've definitely got some serious questions about some of the issues and some of the things that he said and done and things along those lines. And I think we need to have an honest conversation. So many people didn't want to have that conversation, and so then I started asking myself, why is this happening? Why won't people have a conversation about what they're literally seeing happen right in front of them? And then I just went down the rabbit hole, and then it turned into this whole big massive conspiracy that is turning out to be truer every time I look into it.
Wow, yes, I listen, I am very careful. This is the first time I'm opening my mouth about Trump versus DeSantis on my show. I've been careful not to say anything on Twitter, but I've been very careful not to point out that Trump is a cult leader. Sorry, yes, he is. Who's the one that made the vaccine? Who's the one that still says that's saving lives till today? Listen, Donald Trump has been an amazing president. He has his pros, he has his cons. Governor Ron DeSantis has his pros and has his cons. I'm still not saying who I'm endorsing because I don't want to get into it. However, you have to be able to call out your own pick and be able to criticize him. Enough of this cult.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. And my thing too is that especially when it comes to like the COVID jabs and some of the my critiques of President Trump, and I'll just lay it out right here. My critiques of President Trump are the fact that I'll give him a pass on rolling out the COVID jabs because I think in his mind he thought that this was going to be safe and effective because that's what he was being promised by people like Fauci and things along those lines. My problem is now he's still bragging about it, even though we know that they're neither safe nor effective. And in fact, when you look at the data, not only are they not safe and effective, but they make you more likely to contract COVID or go to the hospital or die. And then you have all the adverse reactions. And we know that he knows this because his son, Eric Trump, is touring around with Clay Clark with the Reawaken America tour and speaking alongside people like Dr. McCullough and Judy Mikovits and Karen Kingston and all these people. He knows what is going on. And, in fact, when I just spoke at Clay's event at Trump Doral, at the Reawaken America tour, Donald Trump called in and actually spoke at the conference. Like he knows what's going on because it's being exposed every single time Clay has one of these events. So to me, he doesn't have an excuse. So there's that. Then he raised about $250 million in order to fight election fraud. I don't know where that money went. I mean, he hasn't done anything to deal with that. He's been cozying with the rhinos, endorsed Kevin McCarthy. I've got some serious issues. And the thing is, I would rather have this debate over Donald Trump right now than in the middle of campaign season when it's coming time to vote. I would rather hash all this out now and let's deal with it. Trump, be honest. Let's have an open and honest discussion about the vaccine, an open and honest discussion about election fraud, like all these controversial things. Let's duke it out now so that way we can get past this and deal with the real issues and you can actually debate Ron DeSantis. But as long as you don't, I believe, especially when it comes to the COVID jabs, Ron DeSantis understands that Donald Trump's Achilles heel is the COVID jab. And that's why he's becoming more anti-vaccine right now and anti-Big Pharma and anti-Fauci is because he sees that's his path to victory in the Republican Party. To me, the one thing that may be that check and balance and make it to where it's not going to be as easy for DeSantis is RFK got in and is running on the Democrat side, which pulled a lot of those anti-vax doctors, people like Dr. McCullough, Judy Mikovits, Dr. Tenpenny, all of those are now supporting RFK as opposed to DeSantis was actually courting them to endorse and support him. So all those COVID doctors that were going to back DeSantis are now backing RFK. So that may throw a little wrench in DeSantis's plans.
Well, I hear you. I agree with you that everything should be hashed out now, and people need to stop making this Trump versus DeSantis feud personal.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's why I'm refusing to weigh in. Because number one, I haven't made up my mind. I'll be honest, and you could look at me and say, "Oh, Yossi, you know so much." I do know a lot, but I can't make up my mind when everything's personal. I'm scrolling through Twitter, trying to look and see what's going on, and people, are, "Oh, you're right, or you're right, or you're right." Stop it, stop it. Can we actually talk about each other's policies instead of attacking their their personality or who they are and everything? Oh, I don't know what type of money goes into paying a porn star. Idiot. The president of the United States got indicted. That's what you're going to say? Make it personal?
Yep.
I'm sick and tired of this. I'm really
Yeah.
sick and tired of this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I wish we could just actually have discussions and debates about policy. And I wish that Trump would knock it off with the personal attacks. And I know Team DeSantis is doing it too, but I think a lot of it's in retaliation. And here's the thing that I've said about somebody like a Trump is that the personal attacks and the name calling and the insults and all that kind of stuff, it worked when he was the underdog. So in 2015, because he was punching up, he was the newcomer, he was the underdog, and so for him, he needed to gain ground on people like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton and all that kind of stuff. The problem is that now he's the top dog, and now he's punching down, which is bringing him down to their level. And when he should be elevated, all Trump has to do to win this election is say, look at all that I accomplished as president. Look at how phenomenal the economy was. Look at black unemployment rate. Look at the education system. Look at crime rates. Look at illegal immigration. Look at all that I was able to accomplish. DeSantis, Biden, beat that. You can't. Like that. If that's all he said, he would win in a landslide. But as long as it's the personal insults, I see a path for any number of people to actually take him out.
You're right. I have no, I have nothing to add. So you heard it here first. Why I'm not saying who I'm choosing because they're not letting me. It's that simple. They're not letting me.
Yep.
I like both of them. I like both of their policies from what I've seen, but let the undecided um voter make his decision. All right, guys. Thank you again for watching the Yossi Schmidt show. Make sure to check out Jeff Dornik. Pickaxe will be linked in the show notes below. The his book will also follow the leader. You can pre-order it on jeffdornik.com. Link will be in the show notes below or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Make sure to follow Jeff. Great guy. Hold everyone accountable. Right, left, middle. Hold everybody accountable. Don't let anyone abuse their power. See you all next week, hopefully.